What is good people? You are now listening to another episode of At the Plate with Danny Foxworth. I am your humble narrator, Danny Foxworth, and today I have another extremely special guest. I became familiar with this good dude through the OK Player message boards back in the mid to late 2000s. He is one half of the Bombcast. It's one of my favorite podcasts. It's a DABOMB cast. You can hear him on SoundCloud. This man is Philadelphia to the bones, blood, and chromosomes. Ladies and gentlemen, we got Matt, aka Bombastic, in the building. Matt, what's good, bro?
What's good, humble narrator? It is an honor and a pleasure to be here with you.
Man, I'm glad you could be on, man. So we're gonna get right into it. Let's talk about the Bombcast. How did that come about?
Well, it's me and my man Jason, and funny, this is a baseball podcast. I met him in Little League when we were 6. Well, I was 6, he was 8, because he is older, as I like to point out to. And we just been those people that no matter where I was in life, we're always going to be chopping it up about sports, whether I'm living in California, whether I'm living in Baltimore. And, I grew up around, I was born in Philly at William Penn Hospital. I believe that's the oldest hospital in the United States. If I'm not, somebody might want to fact check me on that. And then grew up right over the bridge in South Jersey, Haddonfield, it's a little town in Camden County. And, that's where I met him. And we've been rocking ever since. So when I moved back to the East Coast, it's about 17 or so. Eventually I got around to doing what I knew we could do. So we've been doing that. We've been going over to South Street in Philly, Little Drummer Boy Studios, and getting it in. So I like how it's going. I enjoy doing it.
I enjoy listening
to your. Yeah, thank you. I enjoy listening to yours as well.
Appreciate it.
We're in the Mutual Admiration Society. How are you digging how it's going?
Man, it's like I'm going downhill now, man. I'm getting my footing.
Like, man, you are
just finding the groove, and I'm like, okay, I'm getting the hang of it now. It's like I guess it's akin to a player saying the game is slowing down for him.
Yep. See, it's funny because I think we started before you did, but like you had the plan coming in, like I remember you hit me up when you were getting ready and thinking about it, and you had like time you were going to be starting. You're up on every platform. I'll talk to you about that offline because I got to work that out. So I'm not exclusively on SoundCloud, but that's what we're doing for right now.
Okay.
But, I could definitely use some tips from you, even though you've been doing it a little less time. You're getting it in true Danny Foxworth fashion, which is with the utmost precision.
Thanks, man. Appreciate the kind words. I gotta say, man, the Bombcast. One of the things I love most about y'all's podcast is when y'all get to the Sixers talk and y'all start playing 40 bars, and I'm like, yes.
Thank you. I knew somebody had to recognize that. Now it would be problematic if I played any of those lyrics,
True.
Because I'm trying to keep it, I got friends, kids and stuff that are listening. So right. I don't want them to hear Jewelz talking about such and such with tendencies and sleeping where the maggots be, That's not gonna go over. That's not gonna go over too well today. So, but that beat is hard, man.
It is. It
is hard. There should be like a Philly posse cut now, like young spitters that just get it in over that. Sometimes with that,
I would love that, man. Yeah. I play that song literally like every other morning when I get up.
I love that song. I really wanted to hear what that whole album was going to sound like, but
me too.
They put the kibosh on that, like Stern put the kibosh on that, like Adam Silver put the kibosh on the process,
Yeah, I know Stern had to projectile vomit the first time he heard that song.
Yeah, there was no way you were gonna. I mean, he was still having, he was still trying to incorporate country music acts at the All-Star game and stuff. Yeah. It was that era, dress code era,
Yeah,
which was started pretty much for the guy that was doing the gangster rap album. But anyway, I can get diverted into AI talk at any time.
Man, all right. I'll have you back on for since we last spoke, and we can get into it.
All right.
So we'll just get into what are your earliest baseball memories?
Well, like I said, I started Little League age 6 with my guy Jason. Another couple of my good friends that I'm still rocking with, the David brothers. My late great friend Ryan DeWitt, and that was my first taste of it. I was pretty early up at that. I think I might have begged my parents for a Sports Illustrated subscription when I was 6, I think. And they were like, they were going to try and get me the kids when I was now. I need the real job,
Right.
So anyway, I started playing baseball back then. And Jason's late father was the coach or assistant coach. And I remember we were just running through people all season. I don't think we lost the game. And then we came up in the semis in the playoff game, and we were losing. Jason got called out trying to slide into second head first, and he came back. And he was older, so I was kind of looking up to him, and he was crying, so he was safe. And I didn't know what to do, so I was just like, well, I guess I got to cry too and say. That was my first, weirdly my first baseball memory. And in direct conflict with Tom Hanks was crying.
Had a sympathetic cry in the dugout.
Yeah. I would just I just remember seeing, well, he's crying. I guess I got it. Even though I wasn't involved in the play at all.
Right. What position did you play?
Back then, that was when I was little. So that team was good. I was probably in left then, but once I got into my groove, once I got into my Danny Foxworth, downhill skiing with it, I was a second baseman. I was a second baseman, contact hitter. That was my move.
Cool. Yeah, man. I was left field too, man. That
feels like bad. Right field is where you really don't want to be.
Yeah, I agree. It put me there. That was, buddy. Yeah, less than desirable results.
Yeah, I got put. I got later put into the outfield after a long time as a second baseman, past Little League into I don't know what you guys call it, like Babe Ruth League or Senior League or what?
It's Dixie Youth.
Dixie Youth. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So then, like, if you're Maryland, I think it's Babe Ruth. By us, it was called Seniors up in Jersey.
Okay.
PA. But yeah, I remember my first year when you're supposed to be, paying your dues. I was starting at second every game, and then I remember all of a sudden we were on like the secondary field the next year, and they put me in the outfield, and I was like, man, I'm not doing this. and I actually became the first person I know in any kind of Little League youth sports to demand a trade.
Really?
So, yes.
Look at you breaking ground.
Yeah. That I think I wrote about that a long time ago on my site on Something in the Water. Not shameless plug. I think it was called Little League Big Ego, if memory serves. But yeah, I wasn't ready to go back into that right field life after all that second base time.
Yeah, and I was one of the few left-handed people on my team, so they decided to experiment with me on the pitcher's mound.
Oh yeah, you got it.
Ooh, buddy, that was bad. It was really bad.
I pitched a little bit. You weren't good at pitching?
Not even a little bit.
Not even just because usually you could get over as a left-hander.
Yeah, but I just had no. I had
or
no
you couldn't
control.
get it over as a left-hander.
I had zero control. Everything I threw was a ball.
Yeah. I remember just even when we used to face a left-hander. He went on to play in college. His name was Timmy Bloom. He was real good as a youngster, and him left-handed. The first time we faced him, he still claims he had a no-hitter against our team, even though we scored 5 runs. But it's Little League, so there's unearned and all that. But
yeah,
I didn't know back then that it's supposed to be easier if you're a right-hand hitter to hit a left. It's not coming in as closely to you, but it didn't feel like that, right. Especially when you're like, because what are the Little League mounds? They're like 45 compared to 60. Or am I getting those dynamics right?
Right.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's it. Just kids didn't have that much control. If a kid could throw a little hard, could you sling it even if you didn't know where it was going? That
was the only thing I had going for me. I had gas, but I just all gas and zero control.
Oh man! So I would have been ducking out on you like Jawn Kruk in the All-Star game against Randy Johnson.
Yeah. I think I
You're like,
threw.
this guy don't know where it's going. I just don't want to go in my head.
Yeah, I think I threw like either 3 or 4 consecutive walks. I'm like, "Ooh, buddy, this is
Yeah,
bad. This is
yeah,
bad for business."
yeah. That's tough.
Yeah,
That's
that's a
tough.
great way of putting it.
Because they start compounded on the mound, you start melting down out there. That's a lot of pressure. That pitcher is the one, because I played some individual sports later too, like tennis is a lovely sport,
Mm-hmm.
track, but like if you're just standing there on a pitcher's mound and, unlike those other sports, there's girls there, there's a bunch of parents around, it's hot out,
Yeah.
all your friends are, if they're not playing in that game, they're playing at a game at the other field right by it, or
Mm-hmm.
they're coming through to the snack bar or whatever. So like everybody knows if you're up there for 25 minutes or so just trying to get a strike, it's lonely. It's lonely. That's like almost like bombing in stand-up comedy.
Yeah, real deal spill right there. I mean, I'm just glad the crowd didn't have tomatoes. Well, I'd have got pelted that day.
Yeah. So, you grew up around me, it might have been a battery.
Yeah, good point. Speaking of Philly, let's transition into talking about the Philadelphia Phillies, man.
All right.
So,
all right. Well, they, I think I'm like you, Danny, in that like that 94 split kind of, I'm glad you're doing this podcast because that 94 split, that was right after my heart got broken in the 93 series on that Mitch Williams, Joe Carter walk-off.
Yes.
And then the season was canceled. And, then I was moving around. I didn't live around here anymore. So I hadn't really, even though I love those teams with J-Roll, Jimmy Rollins, all those guys. And they brought us our first championship in 25 years in any sport. This was this past year. I think you heard, that's right around when we started the Bombcast. That was like right when the Phillies came into this last October run. And I really got to enjoy that at a level that I hadn't really, that really kind of got me back on it with baseball.
Right.
And this year we're kind of starting off a little sluggish, and I was waiting for, I really thought the Sixers were going to lose that game the other night. And then I was like, oh, man, now I just got to start thinking about being mad about Rob Thompson starting Kyle Schwarber at leadoff again, because that's like a pet peeve of mine. I don't understand how you can have a guy that strikes out over 200 times and does it back to Mendoza line, bat leadoff. Like, bat him anywhere but leadoff. I don't care how many homers he has. That's my old school baseball mentality. And stat nerds will tell me that doesn't matter somehow, and I just don't believe it. So that's where I'm at with the Philly. I feel like we're about to start bringing it in. But, it's a Boston week, and we had a real rough against Boston. we just finally won our first game, and I think we lost 6 in a row.
Wow.
But Bryce is back. And it's the quickest recovery from Tommy John surgery in recorded baseball history.
I saw that.
Yeah, and I love that guy.
Yeah, me too.
That's a guy I love. Like there's certain guys you love them even if they're not on your team. Like, I think Mookie Betts might be my favorite player in the league, probably. But Bryce, I was a big Bryce fan even before, even before he got here. So after the way last year went, that walk-off home run, at the bank, that was a goosebump moment. I really wish we could have finished it off, but of course everything was going well. And then I went to my first World Series game ever, and we got no hit, and I think we lost everything.
Oh man!
But back in the game.
Was when Roy Halladay threw that was it a perfect game?
Perfect game, yeah.
Was that during the World Series or was that during the championship series?
No, because this is probably a Philly nerd thing, but like we never quite, like in Friday where he's like, you either have cereal, no milk, Kool-Aid, no sugar. Like we should have had Roy Halladay and Cliff Lee on the same team. There's no reason for us not to. Like, we got Cliff Lee almost as a consolation prize in 2009 when they couldn't get the Roy Halladay deal done. Then they got it done in the offseason. Cliff Lee was still on a manageable contract at $9 million a year. He had just looked like one of the best pitchers in baseball. You had to imagine Cole Hamels with rebounds, and we would have just been killing it from there. But instead, we traded him to the Rangers.
Yep.
For, I believe, prospects. And I don't know if any of them ever even played in the league. And then Cliff Lee just ended up coming back to sign anyway. So bottom line is, once Halladay was doing his thing, our offense started trailing off. We lost Jason Worth and his whole caveman look to the Nats because they just weren't going to pay him. Howard was never the same after that Achilles injury.
Yeah, you're right.
Man, if you're a big bopper, first base big bopper, and you get that Achilles, it's done.
Yeah.
I hate to say it. And he had just, and I hated it for him because his career started way too late because he was like Crash Davis in the minors, but we had Jim Toby sitting there who we had just like basically built the new park on, that is a free agent signing to get relevant. So he probably stayed back in the minors an extra year and a half or 2 years. And I think he came up halfway through his rookie year and hit 30-something home runs. And by season 2 or 3, he had 58 and like 175. I mean, just numbers that you can't even imagine.
That's crazy.
So we had that, all that coming, and Chase started getting hurt. So we just never had it all clicking right at the right time where when we first won, we were an offensive line. We had guys, muckers and grinders. We had, like your Jamie Moyer, yeah.
Mr. AARP himself.
Exactly. Yeah. What was the name of the lefty in Major League? Like the old guy, the crafty lefty that would put like Vaseline on the ball and all that stuff.
Oh man,
something. Do you watch that movie?
Yeah, I know who you're talking about. I'm just not registering.
Well, Jamie Moyer was probably. I mean, he probably came up like almost around the same time we were coming out of the womb, and he was still pitching in 08, throwing 75 miles an hour like he always did.
Yeah.
And then we picked up from the A's. We picked up Fat Joe Blanton, aka Heavy B.
Mm-hmm.
The first pitcher to win a World Series game with a home run. So we weren't a dominant staff. Then 4 years later we had let's see, Halladay, Cliff Lee, Cole Hamels, and I'm forgetting my man from the Astros right now. But we had we had 4 aces and then not enough offense at that point. So
yeah.
So that run was beautiful. I think we won 5. I don't know. You're a Braves fan. How many divisions were you in?
Oh no, I'm a Rangers fan.
Oh, that's right. Sorry, what was I going to say? We won a few divisions in a row and stuff, but as Braves fans, no. We only got the one, but we'll take it. It's better than none.
Yeah, and thank you for Cliff
We'll
Lee.
See how this. Yeah. Oh, yeah. He was a badass man.
Yeah.
He's one of those. I love guys that you're like, I have like a list that I'm always formulating in my head of just guys that maybe they weren't like, not like a Greg Maddux, Roger Clemens, Clayton Kershaw, like a guy that's like, he's got all the accolades, won multiple Cy Youngs, 300K, all the records and stuff for Hall of Fame, but just a guy that more than those guys, even when the playoffs come, you hand him the ball and he's going to get it done for you.
Yeah.
I think of guys like Smoke Stewart is one of those guys.
Oh yeah,
from the 80s.
Big Dave.
Ooh.
That stare down.
Man, that stare. See, if you had just practiced that stare, Danny, that and they knew you threw hard, you might not even had to throw strikes. They might have just left them. They might have just walked back to the dugout.
Yeah, just peed himself a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. because that's what Roger Clemens must have been doing every time he was beating the Red Sox in the AL series. I never saw Smoke Stewart lose to Clemens. Jack Morris, he was like he was a mustache mercenary,
Minnesota Twins.
Yep. And then then the next year he wins with the Twins with that pocket, the second pocket team, and then he goes to the Blue Jays and wins.
He did go to the Blue Jays. I forgot about that.
Yeah, I think he pitched 147 of like 2 straight World Series on 2 different teams that he was on for like a year.
Wow.
And he was like in his late 30s.
Yeah.
Because I remember him and Smoltz had a pitching duel where it was like either 1-0 or 2-1 in NLCS, where it literally went to extra innings with both of them still in the game. Smoltz was another one of those guys, So anyway,
man, how about the early '90s Phillies teams? Those were some of my favorite teams to watch.
Yeah, that was a wild team, man. I mean, when I learned some of the things that were going on with some of those guys now, I'm just like, wow. But at that time, because they had been so bad for so long, like I grew up, my father at some point got me a 16-game plan to the vet, section 209. Me and him would go to the games. And you didn't get to pick the games. It was usually like teams that were supposed to be banned, like the Pirates, the Braves in the 80s, later 80s after Murphy was getting old. But it was in the early 90s, they went from worst to first that year. Basically because all those guys were just weirdly healthy at the same time, and they were all kind of vets that, I think we had 91. You were talking to was it Big Rob was on for the Padres fans?
Black Rob.
Black Rob.
Yeah.
Sorry, my boy's Big Rob. You're talking about that. All right. Yeah, he was mentioning something. He was mentioning something on and you started talking about guys chasing 400. Like Dykstra had a legit 400 in 91 for a bit. It didn't go all the way like with what Wynn would, because Dykstra was a little more unpredictable, as we know. But that was fun. And then we lost the whole next season because I think it was either Dykstra and Kruk, or Dykstra and Darren Dalton. They got in a car crash driving home drunk from Jawn Kruk's bachelor party.
Really?
Like the whole, yeah. So like these were self-inflicted wounds, lifestyle induced with a lot of these guys. But they sort of all came together, and it was such like a weird team because you had guys also that were like cast-offs from other places. You had my boy with the Kansas City Royals, with Tourette syndrome, Jim Eisenreich. You had Pete Incaviglia.
Inky.
Yeah, Inky out there. You had my guy Mariano Duncan.
Yes, that was my dude.
Oh, dude. I met him at a wedding in Philly when the Phillies, because he became a Dodgers coach.
Really?
Yeah. And the Phillies were playing the Dodgers for 2 straight years in the World Series. I was actually living in LA, but I was home in Philly. And I saw Mariano Duncan in 2009. The Phillies had just won. And I just started talking to him. He's like, oh, well, you guys don't care about our team anymore because you guys just won. I was like, no, believe me, that team struck a chord. Even if you guys didn't win, that team definitely had an impact on the culture in Philadelphia. And it was just a different time in baseball.
Yeah. And who can forget old Dutch?
Oh, Dutch, yeah. Dutch was a classic.
Old Darren Dalton.
Yeah, he rest in peace. Man, that turf, that might have been, I don't know if you heard anything about it, but that stadium, that turf at Veterans Stadium, because we played in one of those 70s multi-purpose stadiums,
right.
So the Eagles be playing there. There was a courthouse under the stadium at the Eagles games, and rats running around through the. But there's something in the turf that actually like they've traced to like the cancer that got Dutch, John Vukovic, and Tug McGraw.
Really?
Like, yeah, there's
wow.
There's some real wild stuff with the whole with everything in that place. And nobody was probably on that turf more than Dutch Dalton as a catcher. That was, I mean, because he was on the Phillies, like he was on the Phillies. He might have been on the '83 team that went to the World Series, the Lee's kids with like Joe Morgan and Pete Rose and them. So he was there forever. He was there in the lean years. So like, he was kind of the rock you could lean on.
Yeah. So was that so him playing for the Phillies that long, was that just exposure to the to that turf?
Like that's kind of, I don't know if I get it, I'll send you the article on it. The more research they're doing, there was some real, it was some stuff there. And because those guys went pretty early and it was all brain cancer.
Oh wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah. And that's those were three people that spent a lot of time there.
Wow, I knew Tug McGraw had it. I didn't realize that the Dutch and the other guy.
Yeah. And then John Vukovic was like, he was like a pinch hitter and a utility guy back then, and then he was a long time third base coach. He's actually a friend of mine's father. But yeah, he passed as well from it. And no, I might have heard something else bad, but I don't want to speculate. But yeah, that turf, in addition to just being like playing on a rock, like Curtis Conway from the Bears once came down with a catch and blew out both ACLs coming down in the end zone with the ball.
Holy smokes!
Like that. I don't know how Randall and all them played on football on that for all that long. But yeah, that was the vet, which I stayed up with a couple of my boys when I was home, and in the early 2000s, and watched that thing get detonated. I had never seen a demolition. So
yeah.
So we set up shop at a grass hill right across the way and just watched that at 6 a.m.
Nice. All right, so I'm gonna get into the 5 question segment. So
okay,
goes like this: first and last question are the same question I ask every guest I have on here. Questions 2 through 4 are 100% random. So question number 1: what were the ideal items on Bomb's school lunch tray?
Okay, I knew this one was coming, as you said. And I've been thinking about it now. I kind of, I went to public school in the 80s and 90s. The food wasn't great. So if I go by default on the entree option, I think I would go with the hot ham and cheese that they used to keep in like a tin foil. They'd keep it up wrapped tight. It would be like, I don't know, kind of like a soft Kaiser-esque roll. And then the cheese might be a little like, since it's sitting under a heat lamp, might be a little burnt into the roll. It just, no matter what, that was a dependable one. And then if you liked, I'm not a big condiment guy. I like hot sauce, not condiments. But if you can throw some spicy mustard on there, I wouldn't object to that. That was a dependable one. Dessert, you got to go with the strawberry shortcake. That was that was on a stick, with the like. Do you know what I'm talking about? It was like in a, I don't know. It was wrapped up like a popsicle, but it was strawberry shortcake.
And it had like it had like the crumbs on the outside of it.
Yes.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. I
was doing a terrible job of describing. And then by high school, I was I was trying to we had a little pizza spot right around the corner from our school that we used to slide out and go to. And that was a place called Frank's Place. It's been going for like 30 years now. But they had this thing that I've never seen before or since, where he would take this homemade bread, the guy Frank that owned the place. It was like a mix of like focaccia and pizza dough. And he would cook that up and then slice it open. And then he would have some steak, like chopped up, not quite thin like a cheesesteak, but just chopped up steak. And then he would put that in there. And then he would put a layer of thinly sliced salami, melted provolone, and then on top of that, lettuce, tomato, onion. And it was all like, it looked like a big pie in the oven. And then he would just slice little corners of it,
Mm-hmm.
Come in there and get a steak. and he talked in like this accent. I don't know. He was like straight off the bat, and he would call it, he would call it, "I stay in the bag," like he just talked like that, So we'd just be like, we're going over to get a ticket, and that was like our lunch delicacy, If you had hustled up enough loose change to have a couple bucks for the day, you were ducking out of high school lunch.
Man, that sounds
my
so good. Damn, that sounds good.
Oh, if I don't know how this could be replicated, but somebody would make a mint. Somebody would make a mint. Whoever's listening to this, if they're culinary inclined, go ahead and take that idea and run with it. I won't even be mad. Won't want a profit. I'll just want to sample.
All right, question number 2. What was your first job?
My first real job, my first job on the books. Is that the
on or off? It doesn't matter.
Yeah, I mean, not counting doing little work for my uncles and my pops or anything, or paper routes and stuff, right? First job on the books was when I was, I think I was 13. I had just finished my shortly lived football career, or 14. Just my shortly lived football career, because I was about 130 pounds at the time, and that just wasn't going to work out, man. Put me a flanker and safety, and it was running like a wishbone. You were just basically standing outside and doing them.
Yeah.
So I was like, I'm going to get some money instead. And the money I got, I remember this exactly, was at a place called Grissy's Stenciling. And it was like a little paint place where I was in this back alley, and I just had to sit there. I'd be sitting there listening to Prince tapes and just filling these little paint canisters and putting them into jars for $3.80 an hour before taxes.
Wow.
And you had to get working papers back then to work under 18 age. So that was my first job.
Man, those were the days.
But that was it gave me something to do after school. And some candy money, I guess.
Can't beat candy money. That's how I got my candy money from the 93 World Series bet.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, I won like $20.
Oh, so you bet on the Jays.
Yeah. And
that was a good bet.
And Clarence Jameson took the Phillies, and after Joe Carter hit that walk-off, I'm like, pay up.
Yeah, that was the one, man. That was the one. But they really blew that series in, I think it was game 4 before that. They blew like a 6 or 8 run lead in a weird game, like 2 games before that. That was really the one. Because that put them down maybe 3-1, and then Schilling won the next. Schilling was another big game pitcher, even though he's
question number let's see. Question number 3.
Mm-hmm.
What is your least favorite rap album ever?
Least favorite rap album ever?
Yeah.
Oh my God. Whew. So this has to be an album I bought and was just mad? Or
no, it's just an album you heard.
Well, I ain't even heard Jack Harlow's album, but I'm gonna put that on the list.
Fair enough.
Let's see. Yeah, yeah, I'll go with that right now. There's so many bad rap albums, but there's so many good. There was a time where I was going over and buying all the bootlegs, the 8th Market in Philly, and then dubbing all the tapes and made that a little. I was selling tapes in homeroom, like doing artwork for them and stuff.
Wow.
So I was buying everything, man. I had multiple MC Shy D albums. I got all of Miami Bass Waves tapes. I got Gucci Crew. I think I was showing you. I got Afros kicking Afrolistics. I got all this kind of random. If it was there on the table with the tape, man, I was taking it. It was eventually going to be an investment, and I wanted to listen to all of it.
Man, I would have wanted that Disco Rick and the Dogs.
Yeah, that's another one.
Man, all right. Question number 4: Who is one Philadelphian that you feel doesn't get the credit they deserve?
Oh, Now, I know you're careful with your words. So you said Philadelphian, so this could be a sports guy, a music guy,
Doesn't matter.
doesn't matter. Oh God. Hmm. I mean, I used to feel like Black Thought didn't get his full due, but I feel like he's gotten that now.
Yeah.
Uh, hmm. If I stick to Phillies, if we're going I feel like Juan Samuel was a very underrated player. Um,
Yes.
Like I feel like he'd be looked at differently now by people because I think he's one of the first people in years to start his career with something like at least 20 doubles and 20 steals every year for like his first 6-7 years. And the only reason the streak broke is because he legged the last one into a triple in the season where it got snapped. He was a free swinger though, and so it was Philly. It was a bad people get him ornament times for that. But like he said, when he came here over from I think he was from DR. He said you don't walk your way off the island, you hit your way.
Hey,
Juan Samuel, underrated Philly. I'll go with that.
That's a bar, man. You don't walk your way off the island. You hit your way off the island. You hit
your way off it. And the only reason Juan Samuel even got that tryout with the Phillies, because that was back when scouting wasn't as they weren't going into those countries as much as they do now. And they didn't have things set up, so they wanted to bring him in for an interview, and he had to go. He was working a double at some factory, and he was like, I can't go to this baseball tryout. And his older sister was like, I'm pretending to be you. You're going to that tryout, and that's how he got seen. And he hit his way off the island.
I did not know.
Next thing you know, he's Next thing you know, he's like, I don't know, a teenager with with the drip and
that curl was wet.
Oh, it was so wet. We had a lot of wet ones. Pause. Steve Jewelz had it. Steve Jewelz had it. I don't know if you remember him. He was a light hitting shortstop, but man, he had a curl that was real wet. You could see it was collecting grease on the on the vet turf, like when Dykstra would be spitting tobacco out in center field.
A lot of spillage.
Anyway, a lot of spillage.
All right, question number 5. What was the last thing that made you laugh uncontrollably?
I don't know if I have a specific, but I've been really. Have you been watching that Cam and Mase?
Yes, it is what it is.
They've been doing.
Yes,
I get it. I get at least that. It is what it is. I get at least 3 or 4 like real laughs off that.
Me too.
And I have my friend Jay over and watching, from the Bombcast watching a Sixers game the other night, and I was like showing him this. He hadn't really seen. Is this Cam and Mase? He's like, what is that set? And then I love that girl Treasure Wilson. I think she sets things up nicely. Like it's just a little perfect balance of like serious and not serious, because they say some real stuff, but then they just say some ridiculous things. But
it's like when they were talking about John Morant, and I think it was Cam that said it was a Gary Coleman syndrome.
Oh yeah, Gary Coleman syndrome. And then there was one where I knew Cam was that dude could be a stand, but Mase is so goofy. I wasn't ready for it quite, like the way they are together. You can tell they grew up together, which is part of what I love about it. But Mase made some kind of Andrew Cunanan reference about why Andrews can't be trusted, and I was like, what is he talking about?
I missed that. Oh
my God. And, it's bad when even Cam's looking at him like, dude, you were wilding right now. But and also when Cam was going to make his clarification apology to Patrick Beverly. Did you see that?
I missed that one.
Yeah, he was in the middle of explaining it because Patrick Bev got mad at Cam referring to why he doesn't need to abstain from sex before games to average 6, and Pat Bev got, Pat Bev went Pat Bev about it on his podcast. And And Cam was like doing the look into the camera, trying to clarify. And Mase just starts going. He's like, Cam, what are you doing explaining things to this? He's like, stop it, man. I don't even like hearing you talk like this. It's like, it is what it is. Like, what are you talking about, Pat? And then Cam's like, yeah, you're right. He's like, I'm sorry, Mase. I'm sorry. And then Mase just starts going, I'll choke you out. Like,
I love when Mase brings that gavel out.
Oh my God,
that cracks me up.
Yeah. Or how he loves catching the catchphrase. Like once he got that Capricorn as his catchphrase, like when somebody's exaggerates, Capricorn. Yo, he is goofy, man. But yeah, those guys get me laughing. I don't have a specific one, but that's when I'm on a run of those, they get me laughing. And I also still laugh. I laugh at Inside every night too while watching the playoffs. Something, just it could be something under, it could be something under somebody's breath. Just Charles calling Shaq a fat ass, as they're going out to commercial or whatever. Just it never stops. I appreciate them this time of year.
Yeah, you and me both. I tell you what, man, it is what it is. That's for me easily one of the highlights of 2023 so far.
I'm with you, man.
I didn't see that coming. I did not.
I'm with you, and they're starting to expand that. They're starting to occasionally get a guest on there, like Cam's opening question to Swaggy P about D'Angelo Russell had me dying.
Yeah.
Them having Jason Williams on.
Oh my God.
And then having putting the Capricorn meter underneath them.
And Mase was like, man, I ain't buying none of this, bro.
Yeah. Mase is hilarious. I didn't realize it's just a good mix, And then you got the younger girl that she really. I mean, I think she's better than Molly Karen Rose, A. Smith. No shots. Yeah. I guess that was a shot, but it's also true. She sets it up well.
That she does, man. Man, this was a great episode, man. I appreciate you being on. Anything you want to plug or promote? The floor is yours.
Yeah, man. Just I think you already did that for me, but yeah, go check out the Bombcast on SoundCloud. If anybody likes reading, which not that many people do, I'm gonna have because I've been doing a lot of sports stuff on the pods, so I'm gonna try and start getting back on my music, movies, and stuff. Maybe on my site with some writing stuff. So I'll have some new stuff up on Something in the Water. That's WUDDER.com. Like sometime this week, and then catch me on At the Plate with Danny Foxworth.
Right on. And if you made it this far, thank you for listening. Make sure you download, and subscribe. And this has been another episode of At the Plate with Danny Foxworth. From Matt and myself, y'all be good. 3 strikes.